Buying your first home is easily one of the most exciting milestones of anyone's life. But if you go into it unprepared, you can easily bring yourself financially unstuck. I've been a financial coach for over 35 years, and in that time, I've had the privilege to help literally hundreds of young couples and individuals buy their first home the right way. Sadly, too often, I've also seen other people who have tried to rush the process. They've tried to cut corners. They haven't thought things through. And the result? A lot of financial stress, a lot of heartache, and in many cases, they've had to give up their homes due to financial hardship. And I do not want that to be you. That's why in this video, I'm going to take you through the 5 things that every young adult should know before buying their first house so that you can go into this biggest purchase of your life fully prepared and make it the amazing, memorable, and exciting experience it should be rather than one of regret. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what we're going to cover in this video. Firstly, we are going to have a look at, well, what are all the purchase costs that you need to consider? We're then going to look at, well, what will the loan repayments actually be and how do we work that out? Then we're going to look at, well, how do these loan repayments and all the other additional costs associated with home ownership actually fit within our budget? Do they fit within our budget? Then we're going to look at the big question of, well, what if interest rates go up from here? And the last one is, how does buying a house fit with our other life goals? Okay, so let's have a look at the first thing that we need to consider before buying our first home, and that is our purchase cost. In other words, how much cold hard cash do we need to have saved before we can consider buying our first home? And unfortunately, this tends to be a lot more than what people anticipate. And that's why I'm sharing it with you first, because there's a lot of costs involved with buying your first home. Now, this is a spreadsheet that I use with all of my clients when I'm helping them work through this process. I'm just going to brush through it today so we don't spend too long here. There is another video that I've created on what are all the costs. So if you would like to have a look at that, there's a link to it in the description. But you can see here, the first thing obviously is the deposit. How much of a deposit do we need? Now, I would strongly encourage you to strive to have a 20% deposit, but I know just how hard that can be with house prices being what they are and cost of living being what it is. But I would encourage you to strive for that 20%. But either way, a house deposit is a lot of money. Then we're going to have things like your stamp duty, lender's mortgage insurance if you don't have a 10% deposit, things like building and pest inspection, legal fees, loan application fees, back valuation fees, document preparation, title insurance, title registration, council rates, and when you exchange on a contract with a property, when you first said, yes, it's mine, you need to have the insurance straight away on that property, even though you're probably not moving in for another 30 to 90 days, you need to have that insurance in place. So you can see down here on a $900,000 property, if we have a 20% deposit, we're looking at needing $209,000 up our sleeve in cash, which is a very scary figure. I totally understand. But that's just to start, because then we also need to make sure that we've got money set aside for our moving and settling in costs. And this is where you feel like you're just leaking so much money. And this period of time, the whole moving in process can be a very stressful time, because you've got things like your actual removal costs. You've got things like restocking the pantry. You've got things like, stocking back up in your cleaning fluids, connecting the phone, the internet, your gas, your electricity, water, etc., a mail redirection. They all look like little amounts of money, but they all add up, and it's a significant sum, like thousands of dollars you also need to come up with. But the one that most people forget is having a cash reserve set aside when you move into your first home of at least $10,000 to $20,000, because experience has taught me, in fact, I would suggest that 50% of the clients that I've worked with who have then moved into their first home have found within the first 6 months something seriously wrong with a home, an issue that the previous owners have thought, we'll leave it for the next people to worry about. Things like the plumbing being an issue, big blocks in pipes, roots getting into pipes and those sorts of things. For us, our house flooded 3 months after we moved here with a big summer storm, and it was all because when they put on the extension, they hadn't done the stormwater quite right. A friend of ours moved into a house in summer, only to find in winter that the heating system didn't work. We've had people who have had major gas leaks that have been fixed, electrical problems, garage doors that are broken within days of moving in. There's always something. So you just need to make sure that you have reserves up your sleeve so that when those things do happen, whether it's within the first 6 months or within the first few years, you've actually got the cash sitting there ready to go. So that's really important, knowing what your purchase costs are. Once you've been through this process and you have that magic number, it actually makes it a lot easier to actually save towards. Okay, so let's have a look at the second thing that we need to consider when buying our first home, and that is, again, very obvious, is, well, how much are our home loan repayments going to be? So let's just say that we had a home valued at $823,000 and our loan is going to be $659,000. Now, the reason I've chosen those numbers is that the average Australian home loan right now is $659,000 as of August 2025. So if I had a 20% deposit, that would mean the house price would be about $823,000. Now, let's assume interest rates are around 5.5%, which is what they are right now, and the loan term is over 30 years, which is a fairly standard loan term. That would make our loan repayments $3,741 per month. Now, the scary thing about this is that your first few months' repayments, over $3,000 of that is going to be interest, and just $700 is going to be principal. Over the course of the entire home loan, so let's just say you allow it to continue for 30 years, you are going to end up paying $688,000 in interest to the bank for the privilege of borrowing money from them. And I don't know about you, but that makes me feel a little bit sick. So that's what the repayments are going to be. It's super important that you understand what those repayments are likely to be, because the third thing that we need to consider is, well, how do these actually fit within your household budget? Now, if you don't have a budget, now is the time to get one, because what you want to be able to do is understand that if I take out the rent that I'm currently paying and add in a home loan payment, can I still make it all work? Can I make the numbers work in my favor? You can see on the screen here, this is a snapshot of the spreadsheets that I use with all my clients to help them understand what all their expenses are. Now, the easiest way to do this is to, well, obviously is to get a copy of the spreadsheet and download it, but is identify what all of your expenses are. I mean, all of your expenses, not just the utilities, the bills, and those sorts of things. But you've got to consider, well, what do I spend on gifts? What do I spend on pets? What do I spend on holidays? What do I spend on the car-related expenses, etc., etc., etc. You need to know what all of those expenses are so that you go into this with your eyes open as to, can I really afford this? So let me give you a really quick snapshot of what this looks like. This is my Grandma's Jars budgeting software that I use with all of my clients. On the right-hand side here, we have the client's existing budget. So you can see that they have $7,000 in income per month, and what they need to allocate to all of their expenses each month is $6,664. So my grandma taught me to budget using physical glass jars and physical money. So that meant she would walk home from the post office every month. She would take down these glass jars. One of them was named electricity, another one was named gas, another one was named housekeeping, another one was named milkman. And she knew exactly how much money she needed to put into these jars from her pay, so that when those expenses turn up, the money was just sitting there ready to go. Now, she also then knew, well, once I've topped up all my jars, this is how much I've got left over. And that's exactly what we're doing here. After Kayla has topped up all of her jars, she has $1,100 left over. But then what we did was we duplicated her budget, and then on this side, we went through, we removed the rent she was paying, we added in mortgage repayments, we added in maintenance, we added in rates, we added in building insurance. And you can see there that it significantly changed the nature of her finances. She's earning $7,000, so the same amount of money, but now her expenses are $9,600, which means that she has an average monthly deficit of $1,800. So in this situation, we can clearly see that buying a house with a $3,700 mortgage just isn't on for her right now. So she's got a number of options: save a bit more of a deposit so she's got less of a loan, buy a cheaper house, or increase her income. But at least she knows where she stands, and I'd encourage you to do the same. Okay, now the fourth thing that we need to consider before buying a home is, what if interest rates were to go up? So it's one thing to look at the home loan rate today at 5.5% going, yeah, $3,700, we can manage that. But what if those interest rates were to go up? We've recently seen interest rates go from 1.8% up to about 6.5%, which is a huge rise, and many people have been caught out financially because of it. But what if it was to go up further? And we can see on this chart that it has certainly been higher over the past 30 years. And in fact, the average home loan rate through this 30 years has been around 7.5 to 8%. Now, right now, this is a little bit out of date, this chart, but right now interest rates have dipped back to about 5.5%. But what if they were to go from 5.5% to 8%? Could you still manage the mortgage? You need to factor this in advance, because I do think that after the next dip, we are going to see inflation come back, and that means that interest rates could jump quite sharply. We all know inflation is a real thing. Cost of living is going up significantly. We're all feeling it, and that will ultimately put upward pressure on interest rates. If I give you a quick example here, this is the same home loan, same home loan. Interest rates at 7.5% instead of 5.5%. Loan term 30 years again. But the repayments, instead of being the $3,700 we were just looking at, are actually $4,600. So it's about $850 more per month. So let me ask you a question right now. Could you find an extra $850 comfortably every month? When you take on your home loan, you need to make sure that you're leaving some buffer in there just in case. And the other thing that is ugly about this is that because interest rates have gone up, you can see here you're going to end up paying at 7.5% on average, you're going to end up paying almost $1 million back to the bank in interest, which I don't know about you, but that's a double sick. That's nothing good. Who wants to pay the bank that much? So the more we take on, the higher the interest rates, the more we pay back in interest. So it's important that we consider, what if interest rates went up? Now, the fifth thing that we need to look at here is, will taking on this mortgage compromise my life goals? Now, the biggest area that I see, and actually I'll walk through these rather than getting ahead of myself, is firstly, is it going to impact your ability to start a family? I see this all the time. People will go and buy a house, a young couple will go and buy a house, they're fully committed to it, and then baby comes along and they go, oh, okay, well, we'll both go back to work. And that's great, but even when you both go back to work, you've now got childcare fees, which are easily another $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month, depending on where you live, on top of the mortgage you've just got. So it's very important that when you take on the home loan, you're thinking 3 years, 5 years down the track and going, okay, how is this going to impact our ability to start a family? The second thing you need to consider, well, do you want to be traveling? Like, is this really something you want to be anchored to right now? You've got this mortgage, which probably means you're not going to have much spare cash flow. So if you want to travel, are you better off traveling before you buy the house? The third thing you want to think about is further study. Is it likely that you or your partner are going to want to study? And if so, how's that going to impact your cash flow? How's that going to impact the money coming into the house and your ability to pay those loans? And then the fourth thing is, are you thinking about changing career? Do you not like your job and want to find something else that you actually love? So often I see people trapped in jobs that they absolutely hate because they can't afford to move to something else. They're being paid really well. It's like those golden handcuffs. I need to earn this much so that I can keep the mortgage covered, and I can't go anywhere else. And that is just a horrible way to be, because life is what you're living right now every single day. So it's important that when you're taking on a home loan, you're factoring in all of these things. You're thinking about, are these things important to me? Is the house the priority? Or is starting the family a priority? Or is travel the priority? Or do I really want to do further study? Do I want to do my PhD? Do I want to do my master's? Or do I want to change careers? Is that on the horizon? If it is, you need to make sure that you factor in buying a home and committing to a mortgage. You need to factor these things into that equation. Now, I hope that this has been helpful, that it's challenged your thinking without being a Debbie Downer. I want you to go into this big, exciting purchase with your eyes fully open and that you are fully prepared for the cost involved, because this is an amazing milestone in your life and you want to make it a good one. And if you have found it helpful, can I just ask you click the like button, because that's going to help other people find this content. And please subscribe, because every week I'm releasing practical, no fluff money videos that will help you and your family thrive financially. Okay, so let's summarize with the 5 things that we need to consider before we buy our first home. The first one is know how much savings you really need to buy your first house. Yes, it's probably a little bit more than what you thought, but once you've quantified the number, it makes it so much easier to save towards. Then you want to know what all of your ongoing costs are. So when you buy the house, what are the rates going to be? What is the maintenance going to be? What is the insurance going to be? What are the home loan repayments going to be? What are they going to be? Make sure you've got it all factored in so that you can make an objective, a wise decision when buying your first house. You want to be confident of your cash flow. You want to know that here's my monthly income, here's my monthly expenses, and yes, I have got $500 to $1,000 left over every month, so I have got a comfortable cushion there. Please make sure also that you're factoring in higher interest rates, because we will see higher interest rates in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm absolutely certain we will, because inflation is bubbling below the surface there. All the printing of money is likely to have an inflationary effect, and at some point we're going to see that reflected in the interest rates. And then the last thing you want to consider is, how does buying this home, tying myself to a mortgage, impact my ability to fulfill my other life goals? Is the home loan, having the home, really the big priority? Or is it starting a family? Or is it changing careers? Or is it further study? Make sure you know what your priorities are. Make sure you know the full impact of taking on a mortgage and how that's going to change your ability to make those other life goals a reality. I have no doubt that if you go through this process, you consider each of these 5 things, that you will be able to make a wise decision about your home purchase, and that when it does arrive, when that big day does arrive, it will be one of the best, most exciting, most memorable experiences of your life. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you would like to learn how you can become the money boss of your life so that you can master your money, invest wisely, and live generously, then can I invite you to check out the link in the description below. And remember, it is the simple habits and strategies that you implement today that can literally make $1 million difference to your future. See you in the next video.